In this session, we're going to talk about scaling your ad. So you may have analysed the health of your ad at this stage and you're seeing that it's successful. You're liking what's happening with your ad. So you think, fantastic, now I want to scale it. So what do you need to do? An ad is considered stable when it reaches 8,000 impressions. So you should generally wait until you reach 8,000 impressions before deciding whether an ad has been successful or not. However, this is a very general rule of thumb. Okay, so basically Facebook has said, you know, you need the ad is actually stable up to around 8,000 impressions. Anything could happen between then. As you know, the algorithm is learning. There could be some ups and downs along the way while Facebook is learning. However, at 8,000 impressions, it's seen to be stable. However, I would say that you don't need to wait until 8,000 impressions until you start scaling, because if you after 1 or 2,000 impressions think, okay, this is doing really well, I can see that the health of the ad is doing well, you can start scaling. However, I would be very conservative and keep an eye on your campaign, because you don't want it to go downhill while you're not having a look at what's going on with the data. So if you are going to scale after, you know, the 2 or 3,000 impressions, I would start slowly and conservatively. So you have to be very conservative when you start scaling. If you're not seeing any results in the first 48 hours, it may be time to scrap the ad. And this analysis will come with practice, okay? So usually within 48 hours, and it will depend on your budget. If you only have a $3 budget, then the amount of impressions that you actually would have been served out to your audience probably won't be that much, okay? So, you know, I would probably wait until around the 3,000 impressions to actually ascertain. Now, as I said, if you've got a $3 or $5 budget, it might take, you know, 4 or 5, 6 days or whatever it might be to actually get to that 3,000 impressions. However, if you've got a good solid budget and you get to the 3,000 impressions or 48 hours and your ad is not performing, then you can actually scrap that ad. However, I would say at this stage to put your straitjacket on. Allow Facebook to actually learn who the audience is who's going to resonate with your ad. Okay, if you actually scrap an ad too early, you may have actually scrapped a winning ad, an ad that's going to generate thousands and thousands of dollars for you. And that's a really quite scary, really. So what you need to do is give Facebook the chance to actually learn correctly and to be able to ascertain whether this ad is going to be successful or not. I always say put your straitjacket on, and I'm number one for having to put my straitjacket on, because especially when you've launched an ad and you're really excited and you're looking at the statistics and you're hoping for a purchase or a lead or whatever it might be, it becomes very exciting and very scary at the same time. I actually equate it a lot of the time to gambling, because you think, am I going to make it big or am I going to lose big? However, that's the nature of Facebook advertising, and you need to detach your emotions from it and look at it as just numbers and learning, data analysis and data gathering to be able to help you in your future decisions of any campaigns that you might need to do. And so that's why we always do start with a small budget to be able to test our ads. And once the once the ads are proving to be successful, then we can start scaling it. So when we set a budget of $20 a day, it's not to say that we're going to have that budget forever. What we're doing is we're being conservative, and then we'll start scaling after that. So Facebook considers an ad to be in learning stage up to 50 conversions in 1 week. However, you can still scale when your ad is in learning stage. As I said, you can start scaling, but just keep an eye on your campaign. If Facebook hasn't completed its learning process, anything could happen. You don't want your ads to go down south, so just keep an eye on it. Okay, so we've had something being introduced called campaign budget optimization, or CBO. And that is where the budget is actually set at the campaign level. Now, you remember in the past, the budget was actually set at the ad set level. But now with this new introduction, it's set at the campaign level. So the major advantage in the CBO is it's possible to scale to whatever budget you want, even 100% overnight. Okay, now in the very beginning, I'd be a little bit conservative. Tests have shown that it can be done very successfully. However, if you're just starting out with Facebook ads or you're a little bit more conservative about it, what I would suggest is that you do it a little bit smaller, maybe 20 or 30 or 40%, and leave it a couple of days in between, just to have a look at your ad that it's not going down south, and just to keep analyzing the health of your ad. So with campaign budget optimization, Facebook allocates the budget, that is the impressions, amongst your audiences in your ad set to which the algorithm determines is the best performing ad sets. Okay, so basically what Facebook is doing here is they're looking at all the audiences that you've got in there and letting the algorithm decide which are the best ad sets to distribute the most impressions to. Okay, so at this stage we need to be trusting Facebook's algorithm system to be able to successfully allocate which is going to be the best performing ad. Now, bearing in mind, you need to keep an eye on where that Facebook's serving the impressions. You can, if you want to, set a minimum spend on an ad set if you wish. Okay, and this can be done at the ad set level. So you can actually set a minimum budget. So if you have a $20 budget, say for example, and you have 3 ad sets, you may be able to distribute or to allocate a certain amount to perhaps just 1 ad set. So Facebook will only allow you to allocate a maximum of 50% to any ad sets, and that might be 1, 2, or 3 ad sets. The reason why is because it wants to be able to allocate the other 50% to what its algorithm's telling it is the best way to do it. Okay, now from my past history, I've seen some really good things about CBO, but I have seen some challenging things as well, where I do feel that Facebook has neglected an ad set and hasn't given it a chance. So at this stage that I'll step in and put a minimum at the ad set level and then see how it's performing from there. So you can adjust these at any time, but it gives you a little bit of control over where the spend is actually happening in your ad sets. Okay, so you need to keep an eye on your budget increases and leave time in between increasing budgets if you need to. As I said, CBO is supposed to be a great feature that you can scale a lot quicker than the old way. But again, I would just be conservative and keep an eye out on the results of what's happening. Now, if you are using the old way without the CBO, where the budget is set at the ad set level, this won't be available from September 2019. However, the rule of thumb is to scale your budget around 16 to 20% every couple of days, and this is what we call vertical scaling. Now, you have to be really careful, because after you increase your budget, Facebook then needs to learn and find the right audience, and sometimes this does cause an increase in cost per acquisition. Okay, so you do need to keep an eye on this very carefully. However, again, this won't be available after September 2019.